where are you right now? So tell us where you're at, and we can look at that in the chat box. Pennsylvania, Georgia, good old Queens. Oh my gosh.
Rochester.
Yonkers, and Long Island. I need to talk to Long Islanders afterwards, so don't leave. Buffalo, yes. Awesome, wonderful. We are dedicated people here on Friday, right? Here's my Joy. Hi, Joy. Hi, Laura. Great to see you all. I am going to actually have everybody turn off their video because we're going to record this and it keeps it private for you. And Zoom in the afternoon can be a bit janky, as my kids would say. So there's sometimes a slowdown, but not you, Jung. We need you on here, but everyone else.
Okay.
We need our presenter, because I do not know how to teach this topic, so I'm going to learn along with you. Oh, Elmhurst. Elmhurst, our heart is with you, Elmhurst. Oh, man. Okay, so we are delighted to have all of you here this afternoon. And the way we're going to work the session is anytime at all you have a question, anything you want to share, maybe you have an idea, resource, something, anything you want to share with your colleagues here, please feel free to post in the chat. You can also save the chat later, and we're going to be providing links and things like that and using the chat area rather than unmuting and speaking, because it just keeps it kind of more peaceful for the presenter and for everyone. So if you could make sure you've clicked on the chat bubble speech thing, and what I do is I kind of like drag it to the side for myself so I can kind of keep track of it. And we're going to give people just like another minute to come in because it's Friday and we're all, I don't know, it's an endless, like I've been saying, it's like a casino that you never leave. I don't know if it's day, night, tomorrow, yesterday, but my house always needs to be cleaned and I never seem to do it. I don't know. So we are going to be recording the session and we'll be posting it to our New York TESOL, our fabulous new site, our website. And we are going to have this wonderful opportunity to tackle one of the top subjects for people, which is a lot of our students don't have a lot of the access to the digital technologies that are being talked about. What do you do when they just have a phone? So I'm so grateful that we are going to be able to learn about that today. So I think we're kind of pretty much settled in. So what I'm going to do, because my son is practicing trumpet for once, exactly when I'm on this call. So I'm going to mute myself and turn off my video, but I'm right here. If there's something going on, just use the chat area and make sure to keep your video off and your audio off. If we wind up having a chance to call on you to share something, we'll unmute you then. Okay, and that keeps it kind of more peaceful. So we're going to take a deep breath. And we are going to get to learn now from our fabulous applied linguistics intersection chair who just ran an awesome conference. Thankfully, you did it before this hit, Jung. So she's going to introduce herself, and I want to thank her so much for taking this time. I know you're a tech guru, so it's cool to hear how you just use a phone. So I'm going to turn my video and audio off, and everyone just relax, sit back, get some popcorn, get your wine if you want, and join us here in the chat area for anything you want to share. Okay, go ahead. Thanks so much.
Okay, everyone. First of all, thank you so much for joining today's webinar. And let me start to share my screen. And if there is any tech glitches, then just please let me know. And then we will go through this together. Can everyone see my PowerPoint now?
Yep, perfect.
Perfect. All right. So just a quick notice. Nice TESOL has a brand new website and looks really, really cool. So if you have a chance, please go and check out the website. And move on to my PowerPoint. So again, thank you so much for coming to my webinar titled Cooperative Activities for ELLs Using Just the Phone. My name is Jung Han, and let me quickly introduce about myself. I am a very proud English teacher who has been teaching English for more than 15 years now in my native country of Korea, and then Japan, and now in the US. I am also a graduate student. Actually, I'm a PhD candidate, finally. And I am also teaching at Warner School of Education. And also I am a graduate assistant in the Center for Learning in the Digital Age. We call it a LIDA Center at the same school. And you may know me, as Laura said, I also chaired ALWC 2020, and it was a wonderful experience. So really nice meeting you here online. And about today's session, I think we all know how we were kind of forced to move on to the remote learning setting. But the problem that we are facing today is, what if technology, internet, and like Zoom session, web conferencing is not an option for everyone? And when the phone is the only option for our students, right? And given the number of people who registered for my webinar, I think it's the goal that everyone is trying to tackle and find a solution for. So today I will be mainly talking about three things. I'll talk about cooperative activity and what it is. And then I will introduce two activities, cooperative activities that you can use in two different settings. Good? All right. But before we begin, I must express my fear. My fear that I realized that there will be more than 20 people, the original number that I anticipated for my webinar, when there will be more people than 20, and then I was really afraid, like, what if my computer breaks down? What if Zoom crashes in the middle? And what if my internet decides to stop working for no reason? If that happens, please be patient, come back to this Zoom link, or please wait until I come back. So technology can always betray us. So I think we should get ready for any possible situation that can happen.
But that just shows what an experienced teacher you are, because you have plan B, C, D. And
yes.
we're all TESOL people. We're like the best audience in the world and the most supportive. So it's a really good point, though, because if there is something glitchy, we won't panic. And if something terrible happens, Yujong will just record it and we'll still get the content. So we'll just try to all relax. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, now, so going back to my title, so with only using the phone, how can we make our students keep using English and keep their learning going? Especially, I would really like to see my students still have an opportunity to collaborate and cooperate. And that will be my specific focus for today's webinar. So first of all, let's talk about the cooperative activities. What are they, right? So I used to confuse it with group activity. And to explain what cooperative activity is, thankfully, while I was working at the LIDA Center, I created those tutorial videos about cooperative activities, and maybe I can use this 1-minute video clip and, take 1 minute break. If you cannot really hear what the video says, please talk to me. I cannot really see the chat box right now, so it will be really helpful if you unmute yourself and say, I cannot hear your voice, okay? All right, just a 1-minute video clip.
I can't hear your voice.
If I talk about it, can you hear it?
Yes.
Okay, then maybe I will unmute the video and maybe I will just explain it. So group activity is usually done by one star player. It can be done by one star player. So while one star player keeps working on their fancy work, maybe the rest of the team members, they may be daydreaming. Cooperative activity is quite different. So imagine the jigsaw puzzle. Every single one in the group, they have their own puzzle. And without one puzzle, you cannot really complete the whole entire puzzle. So it requires everyone's participation and involvement. So to create cooperative activities, everyone will be either listening, reading, and writing, or they will be doing something. And if they don't do their work, the activity will fail. Does it make sense?
It does.
Perfect. All right. So that was a very brief idea about cooperative activities. And then let's think about how this activity can be done by students using only the phone. Let me first talk about the first activity called the workshop. And I will give you one setting. So in this setting, I will call it a phone and Zoom activity. When the teacher has access to Zoom, but the rest of the students can only use the phone. So I think maybe it's quite common situation. At least this is something that I am familiar with at this point. So let's say only teacher can use Zoom. How does it work? You know, Zoom is actually really good tool to join via your phone. And when I say phone here, it's a phone that uses landline that you have to dial in. So without using internet, just by using your regular phone, you can join Zoom and join all the breakout room sessions and everything. So for this activity, teacher usually shares learning goal, objective, and learning materials in advance. And then teacher sets up a Zoom meeting and, you know, just a regular meeting with the ID. And students call in via audio by using whatever kind of phone that they have in their house. Students can unmute themselves and raise their hands and by pushing the buttons. And then teacher also can put them in the breakout rooms. It's a little bit different when you actually get to try it. So let's just actually give it a try. I created a different meeting room thanks to the support of the LIDA Center. Dr. Dave Miller from the LIDA Center is waiting for us in another meeting room. So this is optional, not everyone has to do it, but if you would like to feel how it goes, grab your phone and call this number, 646-876-9923. And if you call the number, there will be a prompt. The automatic machine says, put your meeting ID. The meeting ID is 945-1691-2209. It's written on the screen. And then press pound, and then just follow the prompt. You can skip your unique participant ID. You can press *6 to mute and unmute yourself. You can press *9 to raise your hand. Once you're in the meeting room, Dr. Miller will give you a 5-minute breakout room session. You will be randomly put into a breakout room with other people. So for 5 minutes, here's your prompt. I would like you to talk about how it makes you feel without any screen, not knowing each other, not looking at any visual material. For 5 minutes, talk on the phone. And when it's done, Dr. Miller will bring you all back to the main room, and then you can hang up the phone and come back here.
Okay,
Good?
awesome. So you, Jung, I think some people don't see this screen right now. So I'm just going to go and repeat it again and let you join the other room if you want to, or I'm not sure if you're going to. So
Sure.
what we're going to do now is you're going to grab your cell phone. If you are calling in on a phone to do this, obviously you can't participate unless you get another different phone. You're going to take a phone and you are going to call this number that we see on the screen, which is 646-876-9923. And then once you call that number, so I think the thing is, so everyone inside the telephone room, if you can mute yourselves. So you, Jung, I think if you could tell them to mute themselves in the telephone room, because people can't hear both.
Okay. Guys, can you press *6? But Dr. Miller will put them in the breakout room soon.
Okay, but give him a second because we're not all in there yet. We want to try, but it's just like the noise from the room.
Mm-hmm.
So have people if you're in the phone call now, put mute on your phone.
Okay.
And so as you're joining through that phone number and you put in the meeting ID 945-1691-2209 and you press pound, then you can just press pound again to skip. And it looks like you can do *6 to mute yourself, which is what I should do because I can hear my voice coming through this thing. Okay. And if you are international, I would not call this because this is going to be an international phone call. Okay, awesome. So we're going to give you about 20 more seconds or so to try to come into the meeting room. If you can, on the group chat, if you are over in the phone call, kind of hanging now, if you could just say, yes, I'm in the room or whatever, that would be great. Okay, cool.
Hi.
Yeah, we're in the room.
Okay, cool. In the room. Okay, cool. So now we're in two places. So I think if you can mute yourself, make sure you're on mute in the Zoom call that we're doing. Because some of you have come off mute. I'm going to try to mute you.
I muted everyone now.
I think we're good then. If you want to put us in the breakout rooms.
Please use the next 5 minutes once you go into the breakout room to talk about how you feel about phone Zoom settings. When the time is up, I will close the room. Please listen to the prompt on your phone very carefully to join the breakout room. Also, once you are in the breakout room, you can unmute yourself by pressing *6. So we create 6 breakout rooms, and you'll be prompted to enter the breakout room momentarily. Here we go. You are muted.
So Jung, so there's some people in the room who are not in the phone call.
So for those of you who are not in the another meeting room, we can, briefly talk about like possible pros and cons of using only phone, without having any visuals. I think maybe for any of you who are still in the room, not on the phone call, maybe you can type, you can use this time to ask me a question. What do you think?
Perfect. Yeah, so there's a lot of people in the room still who either didn't understand or came late or didn't really feel like using the phone or whatever.
Actually,
totally fine. So I don't want you to come off mute though, because it's going to make us or maybe I'll just speak for myself. It's going to make me totally nuts. So if you could maybe go back to the prior slide. someone is asking about that, and you can just talk through exactly what this is that people are
Oh,
doing.
okay. So should I start from here?
Yeah.
Yes. So again, for those of you who just joined, welcome to my webinar. Thank you so much for coming. So as my title says, my webinar says, okay, when students can only use the phone, and when I say the phone, I'm not talking about internet-based phone. I'm talking about the phone that you actually dials in. It can be landline phone, any kind of phone that you use with the specific call dial numbers. So when students can only use that, how can we help our students keep using English or any target foreign language or second foreign language that you work with? How can we do that? And my focus is on not just make them use English or any target language, but give them an opportunity to cooperate and collaborate. So what we're doing is I am explaining what cooperative activity is, which is different from the group activity. Group activity, one star player can do it while the rest of the group members are daydreaming. But cooperative activity is like a jigsaw puzzle. So every single one in the group must contribute. They all have their own work to do. It can be listening, it can be reading, it can be speaking, it can be writing, or it can be a certain role in problem solving. It can be anything, but everyone must contribute and engage to complete the work. So that's cooperative activities. And I am presenting 2 cooperative activities just that can be done by using just a phone. So the first one is, I'll read the chat box a little bit later. The first one is when only teacher can use Zoom, just like this. And the rest of the students, they can only use the phone. So what we are—
that's perfect. That's exactly what we're here for is, so you have Zoom. So through Zoom, you set up a Zoom room session, but everyone is dialing in with a regular phone. And you're demonstrating for those people who are also on the phone what that feels like from the student point of view, that you can go into breakout rooms, you can talk. So what someone brought up, because English learners rely a lot on the visual cues, how do you see that going if it's like purely, an auditory kind of activity?
So we will talk a lot about the limitations and the cons of this approach, because like number 1, the slide says teacher shares learning goal and objectives and learning materials in advance. This is critical part because you really have to give them enough learning opportunity and learning materials so that they can reproduce it during the Zoom session. So without those built-in background information and knowledge, they really cannot contribute. And maybe at first, like this activity usually works in face-to-face setting, like students realizes like if they don't study in advance, they have nothing to contribute and their team activity cannot be accomplished. So like whatever they bring from studying on their own becomes very meaningful to accomplish the work. And I will also show you how this can be actually applied. So what people are doing right now is they're actually using it in a different meeting room by dialing in, using their phone, and see how going into a breakout room session, mute yourself by pushing star key and number 6. They can unmute themselves. They can even raise their hand so the teacher who is controlling the Zoom room can see somebody is having a question or problem. So they are now, it's a chaos, of course, because, this is a technology webinar. It's kind of guaranteed. So I'm not really sure what they are talking about in the meeting, because if I keep using 2 things at once, it can be really complicated. So I'm just kind of leaving it to my colleague, Dr. Dave Miller from the LIDA Center, Learning in the Digital Age Center. So he is kind of putting everyone in the breakout room session so people can just holding on to their phone
Yeah.
talking to each other using the phone.
Yeah, it really gets at the balance between synchronous and asynchronous activities, because if you're in a synchronous moment, like talking to each other on the phone, you have to have a reason to be there and something to actually talk about, which would come probably before by looking at a video, reading something, etc., looking at pictures before you would actually be able to talk. So it looks like they're having a little trouble because they probably don't realize they can unmute themselves maybe in that room, perhaps. So it's
can hear you on the phone at all now. So would this be targeted for students who do not have smartphones? So I will try to answer the question one by one, but let's wait until everyone comes back.
So he's released everyone out from those rooms? They know to come back?
I have to hang up the phone. Yes, it's actually very, very expected. It will be a chaos because we will talk about the pros and cons about it soon.
Has he told them to hang up?
Is the session done? If the session is done and if he, okay, perfect, then I can move on. Thank you so much.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you, Joy.
So I actually wanted everyone to be confused because here is the rule that I learned in a very hard way, even in the face-to-face setting. You really need to be patient and provide like a well-described instruction, because without any visual cues, relying on the voice only can be really frustrating. So it takes time until it gets routinized. And I didn't give you any instruction. Just one PowerPoint slide will not do the job. But so when I was trying this with my students, and I am talking about the situation when we all got familiar with what's going on and students just pressing the buttons without even worrying about what to press. So once they got familiar with it, I finally got to hear their reflection on using this activity in this setting. So there are so many cons, I think, especially when you first try to do it, but also there are pros, especially when this is the only way or only option that you have. Please feel free to share any pros and cons, your frustration, isolation in the chat box. And while you're typing, I would like to tell you, okay, so breakout room, yes, but that doesn't guarantee cooperative activities, right? So here is what I suggest. There is this cooperative activity I use for a routine activity in my class. It's called the workshop. And again, this video will not really tell you or deliver what I want to say. So I'll just play the video and I'll explain it. So I use this activity. For this video will say it's a grammar workshop, but you can technically use it for anything. What I do is have students pair up. And so when I say pair up, they will be working in a separate breakout room. And let's say they have this target item and it's a causative verb. And they have items, have, let, make, and get, right? Each breakout room, people choose their own verb. And maybe I will give them time to study, master, and prepare their presentation to teach their peers. So in their breakout room session, they will study with maybe the materials from me or materials that they got from the internet. But they have to understand and get ready to teach their grammar to their classmates. So after getting ready and prepare their presentation, and then they set up their presentation. And each breakout room session, they will have their, let's say, things to present and teach. And then each team will choose presenter and listener. one person will stay in the breakout room, another person will jump around the breakout room listening to other people's presentation. And then they rotate. As you can see, presenters, they have to repeat the same presentation for 3 times. Listeners walk around, listen to, not walk around in the setting, jump around the breakout room sessions, listening to different presentations from like 3 different breakout room stations. And when they come back to their home station, they switch. Now, people who used to be a listener will present. People who used to present, they will be the listener. I will share the link of the video later so you can see how it actually goes with my voice explaining the whole thing. And I actually did it online. It was a master TESOL course, spring 2017. I used the Zoom, so each station worked as a breakout room session. Students loved it because everyone had to do something. You either listen or you present. So I am working on this research right now, but one of the major findings is there was a good, really promising outcome in terms of content and language mastery. So in this setting, people only using the phone, students maybe they can use pen and paper, make sure the person and their partner preparing the same presentation. And then by teacher having people jump around the station and present their ideas. So Nicole says, this is a great idea, however, you're assuming that students have digital literacy. So that's the thing. That's why it will take time. And I'm saying I am not really a big fan of bringing this into phone audio only setting. But when phone is the only chance that we can have, and I'm using it as an additional option. So if students finally getting familiar with having an online, phone conversation class, so once they reach a certain familiarity with that setting, then maybe you can try to do this. So what I am trying to do today is kind of planting the seed, showing several options that can be done by the phone, but let
me ask you a question. I'm sorry, John.
Yes.
Just to build off of what Nicole is saying, how is it that being in small groups in a phone exchange interaction with a task, why does that digital literacy? I mean, you're just on a phone. If you're giving people something that they need to do, if you tell us, okay, for example, call in, you're going to be talking in small groups about, a new tech tool that you've started to use, whatever. I give you some purpose, and then I break you into these, I tell you that's the purpose, and then everyone goes on the phone and you're in breakout rooms. It's really, what is it really in terms of digital literacy? To me, that's the whole idea, is that it doesn't really require just being able to dial in, I guess, right?
But I think maybe if Nicole is especially expanding the definition of digital literacy from, having access to the learning materials that's given online. I cannot really mail it to students, right?
Well, you could
maybe count as digital
literacy. You could send a picture on a phone. You can email a lot actually through the phone. You could, let's say it was a packet that had been dropped off at their home even. It could be a link that you send them, I'm just thinking, like, if it's a phone though that has no smartphone capability, it would have to be something that would rely on anything they have in the home.
Definitely.
Anything that doesn't require, right, any kind of specialized access to something online. Okay. Just thinking out loud, just trying to kind of think through it. Okay.
Now people would think like joining the Zoom session is not really a big deal, but trust us, when the LIDA Center was first working on like web conferencing and everything, we actually had to go through training. So what seems to be quite natural right now, it wasn't at the beginning. So it will take time for sure. And if somebody says, maybe I can give it a try with my students in Zoom, I would say, first evaluate if your students are really familiar with this audio-only conversation class setting. And here's another limitation, imagine 4 people talking at the same time. With the video, I can see, oh, okay, like Laura is about to say something, I will wait. There's no cue like that, right? So maybe someone say it's a real life setting, but audio only can be really challenging, frustrating, and even isolating, right? And like, think about the confusion you felt, like, I didn't know what to do, I just hung up the phone. It will happen among our students for sure, right? And think about the beginners or like lower intermediate students. Relying on just audio and listening, it's not gonna work. Then it brings me to the second activity, phone only. And how about this time, beginners, right? When both teacher and students, they cannot use they can only use the phone. And in this setting, how about we use a simpler one, Google Voice. Are you familiar with Google Voice? It has been actually pretty old. I began to use it in 2013, I think. So technically you link your phone number to Google Voice. Google will give you a new number. It's linked to your real number. Students can call that number and then they leave a voice message. Google will send you the audio file with auto transcription. You can play the message, listen to it, and send back your feedback to your students. Yes. They used to give us a downloadable MP3 file, but they don't do it anymore. This is what you get. This is what comes to your inbox. This is what you get. New voicemail from this person. And then this is auto transcription, and you can play the message. So you can actually listen to what students say. Again, you really need to design things in advance. You have to give students materials to study so they can have something to use in their language output. And you need to, because we're talking about the beginners here, you need to provide them enough time to study, enough opportunity to produce. You have to give them very clear instruction. And there are actually really various ways to use Google Voice for cooperative activities for the beginners. So, just like the regular phone, you can record greeting messages. Imagine every week teacher changes the greeting message by recording a prompt for the activity. It can be a simple question. Like, give us an update about your last week. You can still do phone calls to kids though, right? Okay, that's about New York City. So students can call the Google Voice, listen to the prompt that teacher recorded for the week. They prepare their response by using self-learning materials. Maybe teacher can provide it, or it's something that students have to collect from their family members or from their own background. It depends on the prompt. During the designated time frame the teacher assigned, they call their partner and exchange their responses. They can do it as many times as they need. And then as a final activity, they have to call the Google Voice to the teacher again and leave a voice message by reconstructing and summarizing their partner's response. Maybe teacher listens to it, provide feedback, and forward the voice message with the feedback to the student. It's just one sample activity that I could think about. But again, in this activity, everyone has to do the work. You have to speak, your partner needs to listen, and in the opposite setting, the same thing should go on. So the focus of this activity, well, it enhances output, right? It makes people speak English. And maybe if you make them produce the Google Voice multiple times, maybe it also can facilitate fluency development. They can use what they learn from their self-paced learning because they can prepare the script. I'm very much willing to share the link to the Google slide. I'll actually put it in a nice way and then I will post it in the website. And, you know, it can be an opportunity for peer learning. And, you know, maybe you can use the Google Voice, the play button, as a more focus on pronunciation, intonation, pace. It's really up to you. So Mohammed says, I'm sorry, I have to leave. Thank you so much for coming. And it's 1 a.m. Thank you so much for coming again. Yes, so I know I talked a lot and I only have 3 minutes left. So do you have any?
No, you've got more than that, unless this thing's going to time out.
Yeah.
You've got a Zoom Pro, right, Young?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I think people are probably, I know that I am really interested in how people are just using the telephone to communicate. So I know you've talked about the Zoom breakouts and using the Google number dial-in for like a prompt. I wonder if people could take a moment in the chat area, if you've tried something with the students who have really no computer internet access. What have you tried or done already to support, reach out, check in, teach, facilitate interaction, any of those things that have been talked about using your phone? So I would love to see some of the ideas there, and maybe we can call on a couple of people to share. So Nicole has used Talking Points, which is a wonderful app that translates into the home languages once you've set up the contact list. And Schoology. Okay, great. So maybe we'll come back to Nicole in a sec to share some of what you've done. Anyone else have something that they have been trying with the phone, using WhatsApp?
May
Yeah.
I answer Stephanie's question?
Yeah, of course.
So she asked, I'm not sure if I missed this, but if the students are calling each other and leaving messages for each other, in that case, students can just, call each other just by using phone. I don't have to, listen to their interaction. I just need to hear the final presentation that they are recording through my Google Voice. So they can, just call each other as many times as they want. And, that's more like a natural conversation between them. Like, it's not just about activities to complete the coursework, but more about like social act as well. So they can just use their phone call, but they have to make sure they caught all the essence of their partner's response, and they are ready to reproduce and reconstruct what their partner said to me when they are recording Google Voice message. Does it help?
Stephanie has a follow-up question. So I'm just gonna, Stephanie is my girl, so I'm gonna unmute her, and she can maybe, Stephanie, you can tell us a little bit about what you were thinking.
I guess I was just wondering if first of all, are the students, you said they don't need to create the Google Voice number for themselves. So then is the intention for them to be leaving voice messages for each other, or having live conversations, or does it depend on whatever you want the students to do?
I think it will be better if it's a live conversation. Again, I think it also depends on the prompt. But as long as I understand, from my own experience, if we are talking about like the real beginners, and they even have a hard time understanding what their partner said, and the frustration will even go up if they cannot ask questions on the right spot. Like, whoa, what did you just say? Could you say that again, And then the person has to try to rephrase what they were just saying. Maybe they have to try a different way to explain things. So I think maybe that's also, a conversation strategy that students can really benefit from. So I would recommend like just a real conversation, not leaving voice messages. Like I don't have any voice messages that people can leave. So
okay,
that's just my idea. And so using a phone, it really talks about security issue. as well, right? I think Nicole was saying, like, how would students get each other's number? Maybe a teacher, assuming that everybody agrees that, like, you can share my phone number, maybe that's one option. Maybe for adults that can be an option, but when we are dealing with, when we are teaching little kids, we definitely need to get the parents' consent.
That Google phone, could they have that alternate number then? So students could call each other without having their actual phone number?
Yes. I mean, I'm not sure. I know Google says they will charge when you're making a phone call, not leaving a voice message. So I think they say it will charge your organization. I don't know how it works, but teacher can create like a multiple Google Voice like number. I have like a couple for my own, and then teacher can share the number to the students, like feel free to use these numbers, right? But each student will have like a different number, so it doesn't overlap. I mean, that can be one option. It will add more work at the beginning of the semester, but in terms of like securing safety among student privacy, maybe that can be also a good option.
We have an issue, I think, in a lot of places with Zoom. So is there another tool that is teacher controlled where students could all dial in and the teacher could, let's say, put them in breakout rooms, et cetera, all through the phone, other than, I mean, because like, does Google Meet or Google Hangouts or
I know Blue Jeans does that.
Okay.
So it really depends on, or smart something. I think the recent web conferencing tools, if you look at the invitation, like the full invitation, they usually have like a multiple ways to join. And if they have any specific dial-in number, that means you can definitely use that option.
I wonder if anyone on this call right now, because I think Google Meet has it.
Yes, Jasmine says Google Meet does it.
The dial-in, because I think that tends to be, because you can put it inside your Google Classroom, but then you have the same problem of how do they get the link? I mean, you'd have to phone them, because if you have students who can't access the internet, this is what we're kind of trying to get at. We'd have to give them some dial-in number some way. Maybe initially we call them with the, Google Meet phone number, and to have everyone write it down and then call in to it, something like that. I mean, I'm literally thinking out loud. I'm sure you all have a lot more experience with it. Let's just give everyone just like a minute. It's like 5:50, just 1 minute. If you have any suggestions from you all have so much experience, and I know that you teach in so many different places and settings, and you are here because you're concerned about privacy. You're concerned about students who have no internet access, and even those who do, protecting them from being captured live, so using just voice. So if anyone has just another, like a tip, a suggestion, something, you may not be an expert, but you've tried it or you want to try it, I'm going to give everyone like a minute just to share with each other, because that's what's great about Nice TESOL, is really just helping each other along. So any ideas that you have, if you could add it into the chat box for the next minute or so. Appreciate that. I'm going to take I'm going to do wait time here.
Students use top thinking or talking. Point to communicate with teachers about assignments.
It's interesting because talking points, you don't have to have the app to use it, but there is concern about these third-party vendors and the kind of access they can get. So I've become, I don't really know sometimes, when we use these tools, what is still going to be able to be traced back to students, et cetera. So phone only. Yep, that's what That's what we're trying to generate here. Just a simple landline, other than that individual calling your students. So for example, let's say you have a smartphone. You can merge calls on your phone when you call a number of people, but not if they're calling from a landline. So how do you do things like that? Okay, ringcentral.com. Laura, is that for people on landlines?
I'm just reading about it now. I think I may have used it before, but let's see what it says. Multiple people on multiple phones to connect to the same call.
Okay, even if it's a landline.
It says audio only. Let me look up the landline situation here.
Okay. So maybe it's something we can follow up on, because I think we're going to need to continue to really tackle this topic. And maybe those of us who are, in this situation, I mean, we've always been able to phone our students' homes. That's not an issue. I think the issue is creating interaction among students that is more like instructional, using only, let's say, landline phones or phones that are not smartphones. So I don't know, Jung, if you want to have any final words on that, and maybe what we can all do is play around a bit more and come back in another couple weeks with anyone who has some ideas. We can do a little bit more sharing of our practices.
So for me, like, even on the internet, I have ideas, and I was able to find ideas about using phone-only like activities on in foreign second language setting. But the biggest challenge to prepare this activity, this webinar, is to have cooperative activities using just the phone. But if you're only talking about, like only phone-only activities, not necessarily have to be cooperative activities. Actually, I think there are lots of ways that we can, generate ideas. And yeah, so I don't know, maybe a follow-up webinar on not cooperative but phone-only activities that people can easily implement.
Yeah, I think that's what people are. Maybe that was my mistake of how I titled the session, because I think that's kind of what we thought we were getting. And I think the Zoom example is a great one, where Zoom, obviously you can call in from a landline, any kind of phone, and you can break people into groups and have conversation. And that's a great remembering of that you don't have to use Zoom with any kind of video at all. But it looks like there's some other ones too that people are suggesting here that have some kind of free conference calling type technologies. And I think that what you're talking about with cooperative activities does make total sense, because whatever you're going to do when you're bringing students together to talk and interact has to have some purpose, and there has to be some role, and there has to be some language goal to it.
So imagine, you ask students, for example, you ask students to either watch a TV news like 9 a.m. and 9 p.m., watch the first news, talk to your partner like real time, summarize the news, then even if you ask students to do that, that's still, what if only one person who is more, active and more outgoing, the person does everything and the other student just say, great. And then, that's it. And
right.
Yeah. But I think, definitely we need to also to think about, I'm also really interested in digging out more ideas on a real phone only situation, right? When even the teacher cannot really rely on like web conferencing or teleconferencing tools, right?
Right. And I think, like you said, it always comes back to pedagogy. If you put students into groups and they're sitting right in front of you and they have no idea what they're really supposed to do, and if the group is too big, people are not going to talk. So it's going to be just intensified,
Mhm.
you know, when you're not there physically in the room together. So like Laura has, you know, plays, things that you have scripts, dialogues, things you have to do something with once you've spoken. Like if I have to interview you, Jung, about like your time in Japan and report back, then I'm going to have to engage with you. There's a product, right? So it's all basic pedagogy. And I think remembering that it's really very sensitive to turn on video for our students, as well as in a lot of cases, not practicable. So this is a great kind of getting our wheels going and thinking about how do we bring out those great TESOL techniques we know, where we need to set clear language goals. We have to have tasks that are going to be authentic and going to produce something and have something to assess when we're done. We just have to work through how do we do that, you know, in very reduced kind of environments. So I want to thank you so much for you made it. You're done. You can really relax now. Take a deep breath, pat yourself on the back. And I would love to invite anyone who's on the call who has been experimenting with this, who would like to have another conversation about this. If you want to email me, email here. Oh, you have your email up there. Perfect. You can email me at nicetesol.org, and we can try to set up another kind of conversation of ideas and strategies. And I wish everyone health and some break from their computers. I'm not a phone person, but I feel like I only want to talk to people on the phone now because I'm so sick of Zoom. But this is a great way for us to all get together from all over the world. So we thank you so much. And if you're not a member of New York State TESOL, gosh darn it, you better join. You just have to join. We are only as good as we are. So we need all of you. And it was lovely to see so many familiar faces and a lot of new folks. And just joined yesterday, Pamela Bergens. We love you. I'm getting the Monday memo ready. So look for that on Monday morning. I send something out every Monday. We are really gearing up for our elections. So we need some leaders. Maybe you, Jung, you want to run for an office. We need people like you to take all this good ideas and time and energy and bring out those leadership skills. So, oh yes, too good a deal. Yay, 2020. Well, thank you so much. And you, Jung, you want any final thoughts from you? Anything you want to say?
I would say, you know, just give it a try. Like, for example, like Zoom audio joining, like today, 50 people who didn't know each other. I wasn't even there in the phone room. Like, try it with a smaller group, then you will definitely feel the difference.
Yes.
So just give it a try, but not with your students in real classroom setting, but maybe starting with, you know, like a social virtual happy hour, wine, beer, coffee on your hand, you know, and just give it a try little by little. I think you will gain lots of ideas from it.
Fabulous. Oh, it was great to see everybody, and have a wonderful, hopefully a nice weekend. Take care, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Good night. Okay, Yu Jung. So after, if you want to, I did record it.